Are you putting him in front of the microphone as if Salacious Crumb is going to speak? Yeah, look. Oh, he does!
That explains it.
1980s now.
All right, hey. Welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now. I don't know that I should say weekly because I don't know that I could commit to that, honestly.
Oh, no.
An examination of 1980s pop culture and its continued influence. Today, my name is Will, and joining me are my friends and co-hosts, Kat and John. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hi, guys.
Hey, the annual examination of
Yes.
Quarterly. It's about quarterly.
quarterly examination of 80s pop culture. I like it. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
You ever not see anybody for a long while and you have a fantasy that they're going to be different than they used to be?
Fantasy?
Yeah, you're
or
like,
fear.
oh, maybe in this time apart, I don't know, they've matured.
I knew that was going to be the next word.
I was really anxious about where that was going, Kat.
Matured, yeah. No? And then you meet them and you're like, nah, the same old person. What are you going to do?
And Will did not disappoint.
All right. Hey, on today's show, we're going to chat about a number of different things. Now, I'm going to tell you guys this. I don't know that I'll put this out on the air, but I think I don't want to say news anymore. I think that's kind of a turnoff, maybe. News.
Okay.
We're still going to talk about news somehow, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, we're going to focus on topics. All right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
On board.
But John was going to say
So in his
all right.
Playgirl spread, it says turn-ons, long walks
Yes.
on the beach, turn-offs, news.
Yes, I think so, possibly. Hey, on today's show, we're
Well,
going to talk
he's the
about
hot
the
one.
following. Is Gen X the coolest?
Yes.
Yes.
Coolest generation, that is. And there's a journalist, I think she's a millennial, that says, yes, we are. We'll talk about that. I want to talk
Short
about,
article.
this sounds like a real bummer, but this leads into some other interesting things. So go on the journey with me. I want to talk about caring for our ailing heroes. Sadly, we're getting to that age. We're a number of folks that we've loved, certainly growing up from a distance, talking about entertainers, are having health challenges or just flat out passing away. And then there's a number of folks in our lives that are also hitting those ages, and I saw an interesting thing. I didn't look it up because I think it was just a meme, but I saw this meme that said something like the great irony of Generation X is that we're having to care for the people that caused us trauma.
That's true of every generation, though.
Maybe you're right. Just by
Isn't
nature
it?
of being a child to a parent.
Right. Yeah,
Yes.
that's who causes our trauma. And it fits. So
I think
a
perhaps
purely Gen
maybe
X
we're the
experience.
first generation to start talking about it that way, though, about having received trauma.
That's
Gotcha.
probably true. I want to chat about, we got a question from the Cobra Kai composers. So the two gentlemen that composed all the music for that just fantastic show. And the last season was really, really good. I thought it was going to be a letdown, but I think they really stuck the landing.
Oh, I loved it.
What a way to set up an interview.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to suck, but hey, they surprised me.
No, not the
Like,
interview.
wait a minute.
No, not the interview. The interview I knew was going to be great. The show, Cobra Kai.
Okay.
Cobra Kai. The last
Well, you've been
season.
a fan of that for years now.
Yeah,
Okay.
but see, I guess that's what it was. It's that kind of thing where, sometimes I've seen movies that I'm really excited about, and the whole time I see it the first time, I'm just like, okay, please don't suck. Please don't suck. Oh, no, it's going to suck. Oh, no. And then I see it the second time, and I can relax just with the confidence that it's going to be good, It felt a little bit like that when I saw the... No? You don't know that?
I was gonna say, are you talking the series or are you talking this new film you've already seen?
No, I'm talking about... I haven't seen the movie, but I'm talking about just when you see...
Oh, you have not seen the new film? Just
movie.
Cobra Kai in general?
Yes,
Okay.
or any movie you're excited about seeing. We saw Beetlejuice together last year when we were at that convention. Please don't suck. I like the original so much. So there's this tension that doesn't let me enjoy it. And then when I get to the end, I'm like, okay, it was fine. Then I could watch it the next time and enjoy it. So Cobra Kai, the last season, I did that. And it turns out it was way better than I could have possibly expected. And these two gentlemen, Leo Birenberg and Zach Robinson, the composers of the music are in large part, responsible for this because it was perfect. It was this mix of 80s. Again, these guys are younger than we are by a generation, but they did their research and they grew up listening to this music that we love from the 1980s. Anyway, there's an interview coming up, but during that interview, Leo posed a question to us, and it is, what makes the 80s so special? And he said, look, now I'm not talking about like from a technical standpoint, I'm talking about a philosophical one. And these young people had answers. I don't know that I was I was taken off guard, honestly, with this type of question. And then finally, let's chat about whether or not the fictional dads in the 1980s were peak dad. Because in the generations before, they were different for some reason. And since, it's gone downhill.
Do you mean peak dad, like the best kind of dad? Or did they, was it peak as in they were most widely featured, like dads were front and center during that time?
I meant the first one, but now you got me wondering about the second one.
Maybe a little of each. Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there is a argument maybe for the second one as well. All right, so I just saw Marcus drop a huge comment in the. I just saw Marcus drop a huge comment.
Drop a what?
Yeah, a huge comment.
Dropped a steaming comment here.
But that's good because it reminds me to say hello to everybody that's watching us live right now on Facebook and YouTube as we record here. Hello, BFG. Hello, John. Hello, Marcus, Eric, and the mysterious J. Michael P. Lombardo, or whatever your name really may be.
Hey.
Marcus writes 1. Yes. This is a yes. 2. This is. Oh, yes. What are you talking about, Marcus? I have no idea what you're. Was there a question and answer thing?
Well, I think maybe he was going through your list of topics we're going to discuss.
All right,
Topic 1 was Gen X the best? Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That one's solved.
Gotcha.
All right. Number 2.
Right.
We're getting sick. Bummer. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
I see. So Marcus, the show's over. I could just read out your answers and we can end the show. It's a bummer about the old people. Prince's birthday celebration was this weekend. Yeah, we lost a great one. Even the sad songs were kind of happy and that made you feel good. Yeah, that's possibly one of it. Certainly focusing on the music anyway. And regarding dads being peak fictional dads anyway, father figures are overrated. Yeah. Okay, cool.
There we go.
All right. Hey,
that'll all be down in the show notes and no need to listen any further.
No, but look, we have the room booked for the rest of for 45 more minutes.
We're going to chat.
Yeah, we're going to get
hang out with us if you want.
Yeah, there you go.
We take care of it.
But I was going to say a couple of quick announcements. I feel like there's so much to catch up on, just from an upcoming show perspective and some announcements. Kat, I know you had one too. So what is it that you wanted to say?
I do. I'd like to encourage all of our listeners, if you're nearby Warrington, Pennsylvania, to go visit our friends at an arcade that they own. The arcade's called The Game Is Afoot. And this month is their 10th anniversary of being open.
Right.
Yeah. So they are just super happy to still be going and are hoping people will come visit for some special events they're having.
Right. And we
check it out.
Ding number 2, my turn for my announcement.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
If you're in the Atlanta area, the weekend of June 20th through the 22nd, you want to catch us at the Waverly Center in Atlanta for Southern Fried Gaming Expo. 1980s Now will be there 7 p.m. Saturday evening. A live podcast episode. Don't want to miss that as well. Gen X Grown Up will be there in case you care about those nerds also. But we weren't able to all get together last year, but this year we are. Should be a good time.
Woohoo!
Yeah, and what's excited. Cool, John, right? Is it seems like, I know you guys are doing a couple of panels, but you do have that little get together at least for fans, and they're sort of back to back. We might even be in the same room, or one will just roll over into the other. Possibly.
It's just down the hall, but yeah, one right after the other. Yep. Yeah, they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
That would have been perfect if it were the same space.
Nobody move. We're starting up something else.
All right. That's probably enough, right?
Including this.
Oh, hey. And if you can join us in Atlanta, I want to give away a copy of our new book. Yeah.
Oh. Yes.
Right. Yeah, right. Totally bogus but true tales from the 1980s, which is a collection of stories we've told on this show, the true crime stories.
Kat, I'm kind of surprised that the purple cloudy background thing didn't just turn into a picture of the book. Really? That's what I was thinking would happen.
Dang it.
It'd be all around Will's head, logos of it, and links to click on to go straight to Amazon. Come on.
John is
what are you doing here?
Good at marketing and technology. Like this guy deserves at least 200,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Oh,
and
yes. He's on the way.
And then he only has 100,000.
He is on his way, racing
there.
That's
worthy of a good. Yeah, John.
You know what 50% is? That's an F.
I wasn't trying to give you some kind of mathematical, like you had to do a figure to, I guess maybe I did. I don't know. Maybe
that's an improper context.
All right, hey, let's get started on our topics here. Sound cue, blah, 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 blue. All right, hey, first up, I wanted to chat about whether or not the Generation X, this is so silly, Marcus already answered, Generation X is the coolest of generations. And this is inspired, at least in part, by this piece written by Daisy Jones titled Hear Me Out. What if Gen Xers are actually the cool ones? First of all, I mean, that's a little snarky already, right? What if? Did you ever? Is it possible? After pointing out that her dyed-in-the-wool Gen X mother raised her on Gen X culture, Jones goes on to say that over the past few years, generational warfare has ramped up, so much so that it's become boring even to reference. Gen Z hating on millennials for being cringe, millennials hating on Gen Z for being puritanical, and everyone hating on boomers. But Gen X has largely been forgotten about. And then
stand in the background, sipping tea. Y'all go about it. Yeah.
And happy to be in the background. It's always so funny to me, that.
Do your thing.
It does seem like, we've got more and more representation of certainly our generation on social media. And a lot of it is just responding to younger generations who seem to really care about things and be, stoic, I guess, these the responsive generation to some of these things, that these hair on fire things that the other generations are going on about.
You know what it is? I always just figure it's pure peak Gen X. We're just like, whatever.
Yes.
It's, which is what you'd expect out of us. And it's how we feel about the culture wars. Because why argue when you come from a winning position, when you have the best movies and the best music and the best pop culture?
Yep.
You guys fight over it all you want. When you're done, Ghostbusters 17 is coming out because we started that series too, right? Everything is a sequel of our stuff, it seems like. Who are not making Gone with the Wind too, are they?
I agree.
No boomers.
There's really nothing to argue about. I don't know what all the fuss is.
Do you guys feel unappreciated as a generation, as a member of this generation, that we don't get our due? Or maybe like John's saying, we don't really care. We haven't thought about it very much. So I'm asking you to think about it now.
No, I never have, really. It didn't occur to me that we were until I started seeing it on social media. And I was like, really? Huh, okay. But it doesn't bother me. It doesn't really faze me. I don't feel the need for our generation to be in some sort of spotlight, although now we are because of other generations putting it on us. But I didn't feel left out.
I feel like maybe collectively, I know not everyone had the same Gen X experience, but I think we're used to being a little ignored. We were latchkey kids and we were free range playing on the weekends and the evenings and stuff. We don't need attention to validate our existence because we're used to self-validating.
Right. Exactly.
So if we're not in the conversation of the culture wars and who's the winner, we're like, we know what our value is. We don't need to be in the argument. And as you said, I really didn't think about it until now, but I think about it now. We're not mad about it. It just didn't occur to us that someone was going to be including us, really. It's just, I didn't know we belonged there even. I figured we were left out again.
Jones goes on to give us credit for being the coolest, perhaps because of things like style. Like she points out how folks, today are dressing like it's back in 2000, with certain kinds of looks. But the reality is that 2000 people are dressing like people dressed in the 80s. But I don't know, does that even get to, for her, obviously, this is what gets to being cool. But I think cool might be more like this thing that when I think about like the Fonz worried about his hair. He's a fictional character, of course. But he didn't worry about his hair. He knew his hair was good enough in a sense too. Because he just puts the comb away. Is that what makes us cool? Is more what we're talking about is not that we were cooler because of how we dressed. We were cooler because we dressed the way we wanted because we didn't care what anybody thought about how we dressed.
And we know when to put the comb away.
I think there's a vein of apathy that runs through Gen X that isn't apathetic about everything, but about caring about that part of the equation probably.
Yeah. And Jones points out that how, we get sort of credited as that whatever sort of don't care generation. And that she says, she suggests that an aspect of that is that some folks are, have privilege that allows them to check out in that way. But when we're talking about here, isn't in that regard that whatever, I don't care about things that don't affect me, because I feel like I want to say that we did care about things, maybe not enough, or maybe we never just, like we talked about on an episode before, never got into the political power that we needed to affect change about the things we were raised to care about.
Right.
And when we're talking about whatever, it's about things that really most people would probably decide are not worth caring about, but may not have the emotional strength to disregard.
I do think our generation cares about things. I really do. But I don't think they care about the limelight or the spotlight.
They don't care about caring about things.
Yes.
Right? We care about them, but we're not interested in you knowing what we care about or enough to enact change. Well, we care, but just kind of whatever at the tail end of it. I think we're not interested in people knowing our causes as much maybe as other generations.
Yes, we care. We just care, and we can just do it on our own.
Yeah.
We need it to be broadcast. Yeah.
Now, if you think, all these things you're talking about, and maybe we're circling what makes us cool, we may be even cooler when we get older. And I have a suggestion why, but I'm going to put a pin in that to move on to our next topic.
I thought you were going to say I have a suggestion how.
Yes.
How we can be cooler when we're older.
Yes, I do.
I thought I was going to put a pin in it and come back when you're older and cooler and talk about it again.
Yes, we'll be right back in 10 years.
Welcome back.
You thought that last break was long. Hang on.
Here we go.
Yeah.
A mid-episode 10-year hiatus and go.
And now we're cool. And then what do we show up dressed wearing? I don't know.
A shawl.
Yeah, that's right. In my time.
Why is it cold in here? Why is it so damn cold all the time? Turn up the heat.
It's freezing. Marcus says, it only bothers me when the young ones act like we don't know how the tech we built works. John says, welcome back from Silver Blues Retrocade. Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Oh, yay.
All right. Hey, so speaking of, getting old, this is a little bit of a bummer, but I want to talk about these things only because we're kind of going through them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And talking about how some of our heroes and other folks in our lives are getting older and what does that mean?
Yeah.
And then I promise I'm going to pull us out of this bummer with some interesting things about getting older that may make us cooler in the future. So on Friday, May 23rd, 5-time Grammy winner Billy Joel, one of my personal heroes, certainly for music. And I really can make an argument that I've said this before, that Billy Joel taught me what I thought I needed to know about love when I was a teenager. Some of those lessons that I, abstracted from his music later, I was like, all right, those maybe not the best lessons.
Right.
But he got me through, sort of that pubescent era of finding love and wrestling with these things, because I didn't get a whole lot of help from any men in my life, including my dad, who was like, never tell a girl how you feel about anything because she will use it against you. That was the advice my dad gave me.
Oh, who hurt your papa?
Yeah.
And then you've got Billy Joel saying, tell her about it.
Yes, exactly, Kat. Oh, that's another thing to promote. All right, some future show. All right. So anyway, on Friday, on May 23rd, as I mentioned, Billy Joel announced that he would be canceling all of his scheduled concert dates after being diagnosed with normal pressure you got to help me with this, Kat. Hydrocephalus?
Hydroencephalus.
Okay.
Or is it hydrocephalus? Yeah.
Now, first of all, I'm not a medical person, but it says normal in there. So I'm thinking, how is it bad? But normal pressure. Okay.
It was a little confusing.
It's a normal defect, just standard bad thing.
I know. So good. So good? No, it's not good because apparently it involves an excess of cerebral spinal fluid that accumulates in the brain, ventricles. I didn't know I had those, affecting hearing, vision, and balance. It's bad. The good.
Ow, my ventricles.
I know. I don't know. Almost anything biological I can deal with. Anything in the head really just freaks me out. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think this is because it's the mainframe of the body or something. I tend to think of myself as the CPU.
Yes. Yep. You can wreck in my car, but don't ruin the engine because that's the part I'm using all the time, right?
Something like that.
And my noggin. Yeah, but apparently like this does put pressure and like affects like vision and hearing and balance. Stuff you need when you're a musician on stage.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. The stuff for doing things.
The good news possibly is that according to People magazine, a source close to the 76-year-old says that, quote, he is not retiring and hopes to be able to resume performing as his recovery progresses, end quote. I hope this is more than just, being hopeful. I don't know what the prognosis is for this type of thing, but maybe we'll get to see him back on stage.
As I understand it, it is something that there is treatment for. It's, I'm sure it depends on the person, but yeah, there's ways that the pressure can be relieved. So he will not be under pressure We do not want Billy Joel. Yeah.
Kat, are you telling me that while you're living there in Allentown?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Funny you should ask.
Oh, John writes, boo, Kat.
Sorry.
Oh, and good night, Saigon. Yes. Which is our nickname for Kat. So that's interesting. Good night, Saigon. Marcus writes, I agree, Will. That brain shit is scary. Yeah, I bet, Marcus. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's more bad news.
Good.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on June 4th, Morton Harkett, the lead singer of the region band Aha, revealed that he has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
In a statement on the band's website, Harkett, who is 65, said he had undergone several rounds of brain surgery in an attempt to manage the symptoms. They put something like some electrostimulation things in his brain that help manage the symptoms, which is a treatment. There's no cure, unfortunately, for right now for this terrible disease. Harkett said, "I've got no problem accepting the diagnosis. I'm trying the best I can to prevent my entire system from going into decline." Oh boy.
I do appreciate his outlook though. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Aha is huge. We know a Take On Me, that was big in the US. Everywhere else in the world, they are 10, 50, 100 times more popular and well-known and successful than, that song would indicate. I would imagine some folks here think of them as a one-hit wonder, but globally, they're a huge band. And that's
right.
Anyway.
Like David Hasselhoff, way bigger overseas.
He keeps telling us that. I know, according to Hoff. Yeah. Now, look, maybe he'll be able to return in some capacity, and hopefully not in the one that necessarily requires AI assistance, because I'm not a fan. But on the other hand, the legendary Back to the Future star Michael J. Fox, who has been battling Parkinson's for some time, is scheduled to join the cast of Apple TV Plus's Shrinking, a show which I love. This show is fantastic. If you haven't watched it,
right?
He will appear as a guest star in some undisclosed role, but he hasn't been on camera since 2020 when he announced his retirement. So, maybe there is life after these seemingly, certainly debilitating illnesses. I know, speaking of, so again, this just sucks. Is there any, I got a little bit of a silver lining for us, maybe. Just to bring some levity to this in a moment.
Okay.
But dealing with this in our real lives, my dad, a few months ago, he was having problems walking. And very quickly, it started getting worse. And he couldn't walk, and he was losing control of he needed, a cane or a walker. He was losing control of his feet and his legs. And he's on the mend now, but it turned out he needed spinal surgery, which was, terrifying.
Wow. Yeah.
And it seems like he may recover somewhat. He's definitely up and about now, and he can walk without a cane, although it's, it's scary to see him do that because he could fall.
Is he being stubborn about using a cane? Does he?
Not anymore. He was. Yeah.
Okay.
And I told my dad a long time ago, because he would joke about getting old. And I'd say, what, you're going to be a real pain in the ass when you get old. I know it, because you're not going to let me take care of you. He's the kind of guy who'll just, he'll crap in his pants and he'd be like, it's fine. Just leave it.
I'm composting.
I mean, I had to practically beg him to let me mow his lawn while, when he's lost his ability to walk, the lawnmower around.
Wow.
So changing his diaper or whatever, or other medical things. Yeah. It's going to be a pain.
Yeah. I was speaking with a dear friend. This has been a couple of years ago now, but it's really stuck with me. And it's how, and I've done a poor job of it as a Gen X parent, but I look at my parents and my people, people who raised me and stuff. They did a very poor job. Like, they prepared me for so many things in life, but they did a poor job of warning me that, hey, there will come a point, 50s and 60s, you're going to be surrounded by illness and hospitalization and death, the likes of which you have never known. Like when you were a kid in your 20s or 30s, a funeral, I've never been to one, right? It's like and now in my 50s, I was not prepared. Like, well, this is normal because, and I don't mean just our parents, but the mentors who raised us, teachers and coaches and instructors and, maybe the old guy you knew that you always spewed wisdom at the corner store when you stopped by. All those people, unfortunately, they're getting older along with us, and they're getting to the edge before we do. And here you are dealing with it. I never knew to expect that. And in hindsight, like, I got to make sure I communicate this to my daughter, because I might be gone by the time she needs that information, and she's going to go, why did they never warn me that it's like this, because it really is. And I was ill prepared for it. Yeah. I still feel that way.
That's so interesting. All I remember is my father almost every day, at least once a week, saying, oh, it's hell getting old.
Well, yeah. Well, that just means you can't go out and play, I figured.
Well, no, I knew because he'd be holding his knee and holding his back. And
damn back.
All the physical complaints. Yeah. For years and years of my life, that's all I heard. But as a youth, I just thought, oh, that's a long, long, long way away from me.
Yeah.
And
not my problem.
And now I'm here. Yeah. Not great.
Do you feel like your parents prepared you, Kat, to understand or expect that, folks would, yeah.
Go ahead. I don't feel like they went out of their way to prepare me for it, except for my father, just that, making that comment. I mean, he said it a lot, like a whole lot.
But it's not even a social thing, though. No, I mean, it's like, have you had the sex talk? Nobody says, have you had the later in life mortality talk? Like, that's not a thing in pop culture that people do, but they oughta.
Yeah.
You know what? I did have the experience of certain members of my family did not like, and they still don't like, talking about medical things. They put it down. They wouldn't want they wouldn't want to talk about like medical problems or anything, just from the get-go. But also there were complaints about, oh no, the old people are talking about whatever their physical problem is. That was looked down upon and still kind of is.
Wow.
So I grew up with that sort of a prejudice around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents were, I'm guessing either they were uncomfortable with death, which nobody's comfortable. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody's comfortable with, or they didn't want to make me feel uncomfortable about it.
Sure.
So it was like people didn't die, it was that kind of, the dog went to the farm sort of thing. Well, except it happened with relatives, Yeah, your Nana's living. She moved to, Florida now. She retired. We'll never see her again. I mean, almost. But I have a friend that they were raised, to expect that, and they have a much healthier sort of, perspective on sort of the arc of life than I do, where, it's having that anxiety about that. And not so much anymore, because I've now, like we were talking about, I raised myself at some point. I just took over emotionally. But this friend of mine, as long as, they've always been sort of, that's just how, it's a circle of life, and that's fine, and that's how they talk about it. And it's kind of, it seems healthy and, peaceful, something peaceful about it, and life affirming in a sense. Like, I'll play my part, I'll do my thing, and then I'll move on, and someone else will do something else, and that'll be.
That does sound very healthy. Yeah. It really does.
That's very healthy. I wish I had that feeling.
Yeah. All right, let's see. All right, so here's wait, what is this? Oh, that's how many topics do I have? How many topics have we talked about already? See, there's one.
Well, look in the wastebasket. How many did you throw away?
1, 2, 3.
You're going to ask us some kind of a crazy music question. Then we're going to do something upbeat and uplifting eventually, I hope.
All right, thanks, Marcus. I'm on number 2.
I think that was
I thought I had
uplifting.
4, but I don't know why I have so many things written down over here. All right. Marcus says, I think a Will Fireside chat about, quote, hey, death and bad shit is coming is just the Gen X PSA we all need. All right, there you go.
Aww.
If there's any lightness to be found in getting old, all right, I thought this was interesting.
Oh, I need to hear this.
So from The Economist of January of this year, they have this article here, why people over the age of 55 are the new problem.
What?
Good thing we're still under.
Speak for yourself.
Sorry, John.
Ixnay on the ifty I-fay.
So first, with regard to our heroes, our families, etc., and folks of the older generation, According to The Economist, as they write here, the words retirement community sum up images of easy chairs, overcooked food, and endless daytime TV. Latitude Margaritaville, a community built near Hilton Head Island in South Carolina, quickly disabuses these. Quote, there was a toga party this past weekend, end quote, says Lynette, a resident. Quote, there was a live band and it was a riot.
Was it a quiet riot?
Quiet riot.
To living, yeah, if they're like, what? Yeah, then it's a quiet riot because they can't hear the riot. Yes, right.
Turn up the riot. It's too quiet.
Yes.
Crank it.
Apparently, living in this community and others across the country and around the world are like starting college all over again, it seems.
Toga. Oh, my back.
So they've done some studies, and it turns out that the older generation and some Gen Xers get swept up in this, and I'll tell you about that in just a moment. This is funny how they write this. Again, from The Economist. Among those for whom time's winged chariot is hurrying a little nearer, drug and alcohol use and abuse have surged. Mm-hmm. Sexually transmitted diseases are also spreading.
Giggity.
The prevalence of gonorrhea, to name but one, among Americans aged 55 and up has increased by more than 6 times since 2010.
Wow.
And that's such a Gen X venereal disease, too.
We're taking it back. Yeah, right.
It was ours first. It's just, we don't want these fancy new diseases.
Yeah.
I just want little blisters. It's enough for me.
Someone named Jeannie Steckenrider points out in some paper called Lancet. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. Trying
blisters.
Is that also what you do with gonorrhea?
You do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very carefully.
Let's see. According to Steckenrider, quote, today older adults are more likely to participate in the hookup culture of casual encounters and condomless sex. And grandma's raw dogging it. Which might be further encouraged by the availability of drugs for sexual dysfunction.
I don't even think Kat needs to Google that one. She was already embarrassed.
What's that? What are you Googling? Condomless
raw
sex?
dogging.
Oh, yeah, raw dogging. That's what that means. And also the use of dating apps for seniors. I mean, gosh, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to retiring now. It doesn't seem so much of a bummer.
I'm looking forward to gonorrhea.
Yeah. Honey, I can sleep around. I'm old.
Look at this article. It says,
yeah,
I'll be able to use an app, wear a toga, and get the clap. Yes. Come on, 60.
You got a bingo card there you're working on, Johnny?
Free space.
Yep. So again, it says in a way, those over the age 55 but under age 75, which they say is roughly baby boomers, but also somewhat of Generation X, are the new problem. What makes them so reckless? For one thing, there's an attitudes to drink, drugs, and sex. In the 2 decades to 2023, the proportion of people aged 18 to 34 in America who occasionally use alcoholic beverages declined from 72 to 62%, according to Gallup. Yet among 55 and older, it increased from 49 to 59%. It is part
from the
of
window to the wow.
I mean, I wonder if it's in part like what we're talking about. Now, some of the baby boomers are involved in this, but like us, baby boomers, and we're going to talk about this in a moment too. This is why I'm like, how many topics do we have? I didn't think we had that many. But maybe that was
multiplying.
I know, this is really, I don't know what I did here.
Are you making up for lost time?
Look, we're gonna talk in a moment here about we talked about I think I mentioned it. Maybe this is a surprise category. No, I did about fictional fathers in the 1980s and
you did
and their connection to maybe actual fathers in the era and today. But I'm wondering if it's like we're talking about that. Boomers like us were raised by disaffected parents, somewhat. By fathers that and their peers or their peers that came home from wars. And the makeup of family was somewhat different by the when we were raised in the 70s and 80s, but similar enough that I wonder if we had this sort of nihilistic sort of vision of our future where we would be dead by 55 anyway. So when you're 56 or 60, 75, you're like, fuck it. And
this is all bonus. Yeah. I saw the day after. I figured I'd be gone by now.
Right.
I would think, and maybe our parents, no, I can't say that that's true. Now, our parents' generation, many of our parents were young parents because it was sort of that culture. Again, probably because you were going to die younger and their parents died younger. You have kids younger. Less so us, the sort of age shifted, as generations move on. But I wonder, I would like to say that maybe they didn't have a good time then, so they're having it now. But I don't know that Generation Xers have an excuse because a lot of us, had a good time in our 20s and then, started settling down later.
Yeah. And clearly
they had their hippie culture and their Woodstock and they sowed their wild oats at 20 and started families. Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah.
So John of Silver Blues Retrocade says, I'm 56 and I'm proud to be a problem.
Part of the problem. Way to go, John.
What's going on in that
Don't
retro?
want to tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
Ooh.
J Ray says, speaking of,
Toga party.
J Ray says, speaking of, I need to schedule some penicillin.
Oh.
Yeah, and Viagra is a hell of a drug. Yeah, you should just get a twofer, right? Maybe like a combo pack.
What, penicillin and Viagra?
Yeah.
Like just a cocktail of
right? Of everything you can get. And a
Viagra-cillin or something. Like one shot, one stop.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
You're inoculated and ready to rock.
Yep. Just shoot it right into that spot.
Whoa.
Go for it.
That's a whole lot of rhyming you guys are doing. That's amazing.
Will looking forward to the Itchies was not on my bingo list, Marcus. The Itchies? Is that what they call crabs down in Florida?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I think it's the Alabama thing.
There you go. All right. So maybe getting old, not so bad. I'll make up for lost time, apparently. That's what these folks are doing, right?
There's a party coming. All right.
Yeah. The party in my pants. You're invited.
I'm going to hold off on the father thing for a moment here, which teased a little bit, and get to this other thing. I've got a look, as I mentioned, I chatted with the two guys who wrote the music for Cobra Kai. All 6 seasons, fantastic guys. You got
That's so cool.
They got a sort of a once in a lifetime story about how they got the gig, but you check out the interview to learn about that. Such, generous, down to earth, humble guys. And again, they did a fantastic, I'm a snob for music stuff. It could really distract, I think, if it doesn't have.
We hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm a snob generally. Like John, John, I said this, actually, when I talked to them, I said this. I couldn't think of it, but then I did. Mm-hmm. But John and I had this chat about the movie Real Men. We love the movie Real Men.
Yes.
I think more people would love the movie Real Men if it had a legit, like Elmer Bernstein score and not this weird circus music that it has.
Yeah, it's like a calliope playing through the thing.
Yeah. It just, I don't know what the director was thinking. Like, maybe he didn't realize how good the film was. And he thought, well, we need to put some kind of wacky, dark music.
Let's punch it up with goofy music, maybe. Yeah.
If it just had a straight up serious orchestral score, I think it would have been fantastic. But anyway, these guys knocked it out of the park. So when we were chatting, they, Leo in particular, had a question for us, and I'm going to play it for us here. And I'd like to hear your thoughts and folks in the chat as well. This is Leo Birenberg. He's one half of the composers, including with Zach Robinson for Cobra Kai.
Let's go, Leo.
What makes the 80s the 80s in like an artistic ethos sense? Like why is it that the 80s has this sort of eternal 80s-ness to it that differentiates it from what happened in the 90s, what happened in the 70s? But it's not a technical question. It's like it's a philosophy question. It's an artistic question. Like, why do we think that is?
I gotta say, I studied philosophy in college. So when he said philosophical question, I was thrown off immediately. Because I was like, I should know this. I should be able to answer this.
And did you?
I don't think I effectively did. Honestly, I don't think I did.
You have a right away answer?
I think because we had been talking about music the whole time, I think I focused on the answer in the context of music and not, and only later after listening back realized it was a broader question. But I'd be curious about.
Yeah, his question is more holistic about everything about the 80s, it sounds like.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's a fair to try to, I don't know that you can do that, because it's such a big thing. But we're going to try.
I also thought it was just about the music. And so I wrote some thoughts on why that would be about the music. But if we look at music as just a little microcosm of the whole time, maybe you guys can help me figure this out. I do feel like, so just about the music, very upbeat. And even if the theme or the topic is not upbeat, like it still makes you want to dance. There's still something about 80s music that does that for me. There's a certain, I don't know what the good word is here, but it's like there's a certain brightness to it or clarity, a certain clarity. It's not mushy. I think that's, and of course there's certain instruments like the keyboards and the saxophone that are distinctive to 80s music, but mostly it's about, I can't think of better words than bright and clear. Like there's just, and maybe it's about the upbeatness of it, but how can we apply that to the larger 80s ethos? Do you feel like that applies in any way?
When I thought about this, I was thinking about the music, but I was thinking about it in a larger sense. And actually Jason in the chat just kind of like pegged on what I was going to talk about. There's a certain juxtaposition that exists within Gen X that I think is fairly unique among us. So in the planning for this episode, you had a note about not tech, right? So not talk about our technology, but I guess I have to cheat a little. Technology is part of it in that we had technology, but it was the shittiest low-tech technology possible. It was brand new, barely worked, wood grain stuff. It just kind of was. We also had this ridiculously unjustified optimism as Gen Xers living under the shroud of possible nuclear annihilation. But yet we were like a little more upbeat and, whatever, and things are going to be okay. And I think, I'm not sure how to map that back to music, as you were saying, Kat, but I've always seen that my generation they did things that didn't make sense. And that's almost the hallmark of Gen X. You shouldn't be happy about this stuff, but you are. You shouldn't love this technology because it's crap and your computer can't even add right, but it's a cool thing and I have it. You shouldn't be excited about it. It's that you shouldn't be, but you are kind of attitude. That's what I think I haven't seen in other generations in that way.
John, you made me think like, where people making products are like, you're not going to like this and you shouldn't. Here's the Apple Lisa.
But we thought it was so good. And in hindsight, I know everything in hindsight is easy, but we didn't realize it's just barely good enough to do what it's supposed to do. It was a miracle that it did it.
Yeah.
And so we were excited about it. We were excited about the two big speakers to make sound, whereas now you can do it in a desktop Bose. Everything was the biggest and hype, and probably undeservedly so, but we were there for it.
Remember that line in Ghostbusters? What is it? This is it's a great plan. I'm excited to be a part of it. Like, I'm just excited to be here. And maybe you guys are hitting on something about with the optimism. Like, look, we were told we're going to be dead so many different ways. I'm just excited I'm alive.
I'm still here. Okay.
I do think the optimism plays a role. And again, I haven't read anything that sort of analyzes or talks about this in the past, but that juxtaposition, between what was really happening and what our pop culture, how escapist our music, our movies, or TV shows were. But I also like something that Kat said that hadn't occurred to me, I think, about specificity. And there's something, and maybe that was maybe that's the execution of these, the media that is in contrast, that is joyful, etc. That it's, again, trying to say it in a broad sense, but I always think about music, maybe because I just think about music so often in different ways. But the specificity, and Kat, I think that's a good way of thinking it, because we've talked about this before. When we see these memes go around that if Back to the Future were set today, they'd be going back to the 1990s. And
whoa, crazy.
Yeah, and I say, like, what is that? So Marty wakes up. Does he know he's actually time traveled? I don't think he would. And I think it is maybe because there aren't really, it wasn't so specific like this TV show, this type of movie, this type of music. It's just kind of, maybe there's too much of everything since, or not enough of, there's not as many standout new things in the 80s.
Unless he just saw Nirvana. Yeah. Like, okay, those guys, those clothes, this grunge music. Okay, that's 90s. But also it wasn't just that, right? Like the 50s was largely bubblegum music and happy rock. And there wasn't, you didn't have all these other things. You didn't have hip hop yet, of course. You didn't have, but as those things come along, they're all getting amalgamated into the next generation. Yeah. It's not like they abandoned those song styles. They added in, and you could say grunge kind of came and went. Maybe that's one that I think maybe you could pin it to the 90s if you had to, but otherwise it's pretty homogenous.
And I always try to just separate ourselves from the nostalgia of it, right? But it does seem like the 50s, and maybe it's just in hindsight we think these things. There was some more specificity to the pop culture and also just, in fashion, etc. 60s, there's a certain thing we could have with the 60s, 70s, 80s. Again, is this just self-serving that I think that generations since? I know the way Leo said his thing was he was saying 80s is even different than those prior generations, and I agree. But there's just, as time goes on, there's just, I don't know, it's just a big, like, what did you say, Kat, like mush or something? It's just.
It's not mushy, right? Yeah, I feel like, what we come from, it's, what we come from. It has a certain clarity. It has a certain brightness about it. And there was something else that you said that just, I don't know. Might have fallen out of my head. Oh, I know. The whole optimism thing. I do wonder sometimes if was like an oppositional reaction to the doom and gloom and nuclear war and all of that. And we just really needed to not just get sucked into that. And so there was just, like a yin yang, like some kind of opposite effect happening there.
And we were told, stay in school, stay off drugs. It ruins your future. Like, so you're saying I have a future?
Oh,
because they were just talking about bombs a minute ago, right? And how to get under the desk, right? But maybe, okay, if you say so. I think it was our future was unclear. And so it wasn't like we were rushing headlong toward our older age. It was more like, well, we're here. So far, so good. They say something's coming or not. So to live in the moment in a way that maybe people don't have that kind of insecurity about their like global life and health today.
Yeah. Right. Maybe and the living in the moment thing, like you just said something that makes me think of our discussion about over 55 being a problem. It's like, it's almost as if maybe they are experiencing that too. Like, wow, I didn't think I had this future and I'm still here. Yeah. All right.
And they're still living it, still in the moment.
And they're being optimistic, yes, and living in the moment.
This makes me think about our earlier conversation about Gen X being the sort of whatever generation. There is an aspect I think associated with a generation that's this, as I think codified by the lyrics of Rage Against the Machine. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. That is kind of a Generation X attitude. That almost like we're told you're going to die tomorrow. Fuck you, I'm going to really love today. Then, or I'm going to do I'm not going to feel bad about it.
Yeah, that's that moment.
This is a long answer, Leo, but it's probably better than the answer I gave you during the interview. Anyway, listen for that. It's coming up probably, I think next week you can hear the full chat.
Was your answer just cuz? Was that the answer?
It just was, man.
It is.
Again, I think I focused on the music and the idea of how globalization, how many influences were sort of pulled together in sort of American 80s pop culture to create unique things, I mean, how we got different music styles is either focused on, an amalgam. Is that the word you said, John? Amalgamation?
That's a good word.
I think so.
Different things. And that created look, we're going to synthesize all our things. You took a bunch of different things and put them together, create a specific new thing that was optimistic in the face of, likely death.
Adversity.
Yes.
Yeah. Danger. Yeah, sure.
There you go. That's the one sentence answer. Jason, like as you pointed out, says maybe your optimism.
Put it on the thumbnail.
Jason goes on to say optimism in the face of possible nuclear war. John says, well, from a music standpoint, it was between the last days of disco and the birth of grunge. We just rocked in and sold out. Oh, sold out. SOUL.
Oh, I like that.
I see what you did.
Nice.
I see what you did there.
Marcus says, really, it was the heyday of American Top 40 and the rise and ubiquity of the music video and how musicians were more directly because of the videos to impact the future and culture. Yeah. Plus our kids like us. So they like our music. So it's lived on. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's true.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to think about it too. Yeah. Eagle Baby says,
forced him to though.
What's that, John?
We forced him to.
Yeah.
I know that I indoctrinated my child. Yeah. This is what you're listening to when you're in my car.
Yeah. But we've talked about this though, but our parents influenced and older people in our lives influenced our music too. But if I thought my parents were complete assholes, would I be like, I don't like your music? I don't know. I think music is a thing. Like if you like it, you like it. It doesn't matter.
It kind of transcends that.
Yeah. And I thought John meant that he forced his daughter to like him.
Oh, not the music. I am your father. I can show you a test. Your mom and I already went through this.
And I'm cool.
I'm cool, damn it. Look at my hat. I don't even bend the bill.
Some of them I do, just not this one.
Oh, you do?
No, not that.
It's how I got it. That's not a choice. It's just how I purchased it.
Yeah, well, they all come that way. Then you
I've had people, okay, really?
I do.
People complain about that. Like,
I've seen
bought, you didn't say, oh, really? You chose to have 6 buttons on your shirt, huh? It's how I got it. I did.
There's some things you got to break in.
If the hat comes this way,
Yeah.
I wear it this way.
Now, look, we're not sports guys, right?
If the hat comes this way,
Yeah, okay.
I wear it this way. It's how I bought it.
Yeah.
Oh, chose to bend the bill of your cap, did you?
Well, it
no,
makes it more
I bought
practical.
it this way.
I mean, not everything
For
the function of the visor, which is to protect your eyes from the sun. So you bend it, you get
I'm
a little
inside.
more. You get,
I'm in the house.
well, somehow that makes you a lot cooler.
Oh God, the fluorescence.
What is it then? You wake up in the morning, honey, don't look at me. I don't have my hat on yet.
No, she's seen me without my hat. It's okay.
All right. Is the facial hair attached? Is that what happens?
It's like a wig would be if
I break mine in. Yeah.
It's not a choice.
It's not a choice.
See?
I buy stuff and I break it in sometimes because it doesn't look right. If I buy jeans and they seem too stiff, I got to like crumple them up, wash them a few times.
I didn't like put this in a vise. I got to flatten this bill out. This is bullshit.
I
can't wear it. No, it's whatever they give me at the store. I don't know any better.
No, I get it. I hear what you're saying. Here's the reason I bend mine. One, there's 3 reasons. One, it helps I think a little more with the sun. 2, I'm not,
because you're cool.
2, I'm not 12, and 3, I'm not a skateboarder. So those 3 things out. But you must.
This is like the thumbs up emoji all over again. It means something different to you than it does to me, right? Yeah. I'm not making some kind of a skateboarder statement. I'm just wearing the hat I bought.
You're a 90s rapper. I got it. You probably have the sticker on the bottom too, right? With the brand thing. Do you? You have the silver sticker thingy with the. Oh, he does. He does.
It was on the hat when I bought it.
God. Products come with stickers that are meant to be taken off.
I didn't accessorize the bill.
That was amazing. That was amazing.
What? How did this become about me and my hat?
Look, I have a sign up that says "Don't make fun of cat." I have to add something.
You need 2 signs.
I got to add.
You need a second sign.
He
Pencil.
needs 2 signs. But I want you to put your other hat back on because look.
You want the turtles matching? Well, I'm afraid I might make a skateboarder statement if I do, but we'll at the risk of making a statement, I'll put the flat one back on.
Okay, cool. All right, hey, finally. So Father's Day just passed, and it's got me thinking about. I wanted to chat about for some time, at least in part. There's probably a deeper dive to do on this. I know there is.
How much death is involved?
Hey, man, we're not going to stray from the tough things. Not anymore.
Okay.
Next week,
fair enough.
AIDS. All right. So
the hard hitting.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to check in on AIDS. You hardly hear about it anymore. Not since the 80s. Oh God, that's just awful.
Oh, what a shame too.
Yeah.
We need more content. All right. Anyway, so look, I had this theory in my head, I suppose, that I had to dig into, but this idea that over time, and it's not it's not something that's so out of the park you'll be surprised, but over time, the representation of fathers in media has changed, evolved. Mm-hmm. But like many of these things, without having actually read a smart person who did actual research and can provide statistics, I'm not sure what happened. And quite honestly, I guess before I even sort of dive into what I've learned by reading about smart people, I suppose what we're going to hit on just generally is.
Was it in your book that you read about smart people?
The book that I read or the book that I wrote? I don't remember.
That you wrote.
That I wrote.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's the true tales about how fathers are smart.
Yeah. There's an opportunity in there for plug.
Something about bending the bills. No. All right, look, I feel I'm resetting. Okay, so
I've got hat anxiety now.
No. You look great. You look great in a hat, John. I don't look good in hats.
I don't know if you believe that.
No, don't bend it. You look good like that. Seriously, you have a look. Your thumbnails wouldn't look the same if you started bending your bills.
Welcome to noncommittalcompliments.com. You really have a look.
Do you remember when I gave you a backhanded compliment that involved math? Or maybe it was an insult. I don't know. I don't remember. All right, here we go. So look,
you certainly are distinctive.
I started digging into this and I found a couple of interesting studies, articles, etc., including this one by David McGee and Bryce Hantla, I don't know, Hantla. And they start off like this. At best, television dads are nominal or figurehead leaders of the home, but at worst, they are relegated to the intellectual level of the family pet. Yeah, so not surprisingly, I suppose. The thing that surprised me, I think, is that it turns out that an aspect of this representation of fathers in media, I think, peaked in the 80s. And I'll explain why. And I think perhaps it may be the best representation before things started changing. Early
80s probably.
Yes, John, seriously. Yeah, it's just on top of his stuff.
Right here, brother.
Yeah,
right here.
Very good. I love it. I love we're reconnecting. I'm tossing out so many things. Reconnect. We're set to reconnect.
Like Aquaman.
Yes, very good.
I can hear you, Aquaman.
So Erica Sharer, let's decide how to say her name. So I'm going to say it a few times. Sharer. Let's say. Erica Sharer, who's the professor of communication at UMass Amherst, sampled long-running and top-rated domestic sitcoms from 1950 through 1990 and discovered that, quote, the changing portrayal of father figures went from positions of wisdom and authority to roles in which their sensibility is called into question or mocked.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So in the 50s, you could think about shows Father Knows Best, in the 60s and so on. The Brady Bunch, all these.
Leave It to Beaver, My Three Sons.
Yeah. Well, you have
Donna
the father
Reed
portrayed as the breadwinner
Yeah.
and the stoic authority of the home.
Yeah.
But as John points out, this started to evolve, and there seems to be a clear demarcation, according to these experts, in the mid 1980s.
So can I try?
Yeah.
Can I try? I don't want to steal your thunder.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking like Family Ties, Full House, right? And then Married with Children, Simpsons. Those start rolling in where they're like, oh, you're just a buffoon, and the family tolerates you as opposed to you being the wisdom and the heart of the house. Well, I guess you're the head of the house, where the mom was the heart of the house kind of thing, right? It was this very clear. And I think that's an inspiration from the 50s and 60s, that boomer mentality that we copied into our early 80s. And then as we got a little more whatever, we're going to, let's start mocking these establishments like fatherhood, like, the government. We would mock whatever. And so that was just another thing to mock maybe, but not mom so much. Interesting.
Well, what popped into my head was Mrs. Doubtfire, like the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that whole, oops, oh no.
Yeah. So this research that I'm talking about, and John, you're right, the examples you gave are spot on, showed that domestic comedies after 1984 depicted more dominance and less satisfaction and stability in the home than those prior. You mentioned moms. The number of times a mother told a joke at the father's expense increased from 1.8 times per episode in the 1950s to roughly 4.5 times. Not far off.
What is it?
4.5 times per episode by 1990.
Okay. Wow.
And numerous.
I was trying to run through an episode of Married with Children in my head.
Gosh.
I was trying to, let's see, how many times can Peg mess with Al? Right.
Yeah. A numerical observation of all the sitcoms showed in the 1950s, the father made fun of the mother 58 times, while the mother made fun of the father 19 times. But over the course of the next 50 years, there was a change, as we're talking about. By 1990, fathers made fun of mothers 81 times, and mothers made fun of fathers 176 times. Why did this happen? There's theories. But the main one being, at least according to Sharer, is that as women started to have more representation in the workforce throughout the 1980s, I guess it created an opportunity for us to poke fun at the fathers. We had them.
I make my own money.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it sort of shifted. I mean, it was just a real sort of flip flop. I guess we started.
Like the pendulum swung the other way.
Yeah. So she says she observed increasingly feminist portrayals of women that coincided with their growing presence in the workforce, and not necessarily coincidentally, but this sort of decline in the portrayal of dads. What's interesting to me is what also happened was, though, and I think, John, you gave some examples there again, and it sort of changed after this point in the 1980s, is we moved away from these really stoic, removed father, fathers who gave advice when they came home from dinner and then went off to smoke a pipe and they weren't seen again until the next episode.
Sure.
To having, the father and family ties, to having, before it took a weird turn, Bill Cosby, as Dr. Huxtable, that they were taking more active roles in their children's lives and not just being this, removed sort of, authority figure. That, again, starts to change, but that doesn't change as much in media as this idea of them being buffoons. And that just continued to get to increase. So we may have representation of fathers now as being more involved in children's lives. Like they gave an example of Phil Dunphy in Modern Family. He's very much involved in his children's lives. But even that becomes sort of a point of jokes, in the show where he's routinely portrayed as a buffoon. And
just can't win.
Yeah. Using a quantitative content analysis, which I think is what it sounds like, how many of something happens. She observed that fathers were shown in fewer parenting situations in more recent sitcoms. And when fathers were parenting, it was depicted as humorously. So like I said, 50% of the relevant scenes in the last 20 years have the fathers being made fun of, even as they participate in their sort of children's lives, as compared to 18% in the 1980s. Where again, what was his name? Mike. What was the names in the Keaton? It's Keaton. I don't know what the father Keaton's name. It was the actor was what? Is that Michael Gross? Father? Huh. Somebody's named that.
Who's Alan Thicke? He was in a different one.
But
Which one was
another
that?
example too.
But
these fathers, a little bit of jokes made fun of them. He was made fun of for being a hippie, and by Alex, his son. But otherwise, treated with respect and also had more involvement with the family. She goes on to talk about how this might be a problem in some sense, right? That representation matters. We hear this all the time, and most oftentimes in the context of underrepresented, people in our culture. She talks about how, the gay characters on Will and Grace did something for representation for gay people and did something important. It's important to see yourself represented in media for your self-esteem, I guess most importantly. And that goes to, people of different race, different religions, creeds, et cetera, and so on. So what happens, though, when you then show fathers as being idiots and not representing the fathers, the stand-up guys like John and myself who raised, people in the chat have talked about raising their kids right. Are you discouraged? You're not discouraged from being a good father? Well, fuck it. I'll be like Phil Dunphy. He's a fucking idiot.
Why try?
Yeah, but according to Scherer, at least, it reinforces the idea. What happens is it reinforces the idea that mothers should be more responsible for raising the children because men are idiots. And I think that men take advantage of this.
Okay.
Look, honey, I don't know how to raise kids. I'm a fucking moron. Which end does the diaper go on? The head end? I guess I shouldn't change diapers.
Will's one of those that on purpose loads the dishwasher wrong so he won't be asked again.
What did I load it with?
Get out of the way.
I'll do it. Move.
I don't know.
I'll handle it.
All right, honey.
I don't know.
Do you feel like you see that? Do you observe that? Do you feel like fathers that other fathers are kind of slacking off because of that role modeling? Character.
I don't know that they would say it's because they saw it on TV, but I would say it's probably most of the dads I know are very involved in their children's lives and are great guys and share. Yeah. And not buffoons and tend to share responsibility with their partner. I think for the most part. I don't know. I saw something in one of these studies saying that I'm sure this is, this is for a different reason, but that as these representations have evolved over the time, what's also changed is how much television people are consuming. So people are consuming way more TV now than they did in the 1950s with these other representations. I guess that suggests maybe that we're more susceptible to these kinds of negative influences. But I don't know any father who says, look, did you see the guy in King of the Hill? He's a real idiot, so I can be an idiot. But I guess maybe to some extent it does make you feel like you have permission. I think that's what representation is about. Yeah.
I feel like you will. I don't really see it, but it could just be in the circle that I travel in. Yeah. I'm immune to it because I'm not exposed to it. But yeah, most of the dads that I know are, putting in the work and they're not sitting on the couch with their hand down their pants when other people are home.
When other people are home.
Yeah, what you do in the privacy of your own living room when no one's there. But yeah, I don't see that kind of buffoonery getting mapped over. So I guess I would need some more empirical evidence that it's happening to believe it. But I understand how, look, media can be the influence. I know it can. Whether or not it actually impacts your paternal instincts, I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Probably more like what we were talking about, throughout the episode of how we were raised and what we were.
Yes, that's exactly what I was just going to say. Yeah. I'm sure that it's much more influenced by how they were raised.
Hey, Karen. Karen's here. Karen says something. Where did Karen's thing go? Oh, Stephen and Elise. That's her Family Ties parents. Thank you. Gosh.
Yes. Here we go.
Oh, I knew somebody would come.
Brendan says, to me, Alan Thicke as Jason Seaver in Growing Pains took the cake. He wasn't cool and he wasn't even the breadwinner, but he was instantly lovable. What else?
Yeah.
Eagle Baby says Michael Gross in Tremors. I mean, Family Ties. Yeah. Oh, it is Michael Gross. Yeah. Tremors is, he's a great dad. Now, he's not a dad necessarily, but he's a great character. It's hard. And also Eagle's Baby says, it's hard being lazy. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Alan Thicke, all right, here's the best fathers, I think, right? From the 1980s media. You got I guess I'll just name the actors who played the characters. Bill Cosby. Jeffrey Jones was a great father in Beetlejuice. Stephen Collins was, all right, no, I'm just naming all sex offenders. I'm naming all sex offenders.
Wait a minute. Well,
yes. Yeah,
throw that one in the
chat, I was with you for Cosby, but then I'm like, he wasn't a very good dad in Beetlejuice.
No. Jeffrey Jones.
He was already, so what was Beetlejuice? 87, 88? When was that? Yeah. Late 80s, right in there?
It was later, yeah.
And the dad in Beetlejuice was a put-upon doofus of a dad, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was not in control of the house. He was steamrolled at every opportunity.
But I was really listing actors who were sexist.
Oh, I know who you were listing.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to make a show out of it if I could at all.
Nope. There's no rescuing this, John.
Okay.
You're trying to connect to the topic.
I'm not even recording this, John.
Crazy me.
Next week we'll start the real show. We had to shake off.
This is the dry run to see if we can still do this.
Oh, this was
get the rust off, the barnacles. All right, hey. In spite of what John just said, that was a show.
And do I say all the usual names?
Yeah,
Is this true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully.
I didn't know if it changed.
I don't know. Hopefully. It's a positive affirmation. We're gonna manifest sponsors or patrons.
I should say a whole lot more names then. Okay, I'm gonna make some up. Our show is brought to you thanks in part to our early adopters, Karen Flieger and Rick Parker.
Yeah, and hey, we're hoping to see Rick Parker down at SFGE in Atlanta this weekend, coming up here.
I can verify.
Oh, yeah? All right.
Parker.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. Yes. I told him he had to show up.
Yeah.
And thank you especially to our secret of our success level Patreon supporters, Marcus Taylor, Tony Great, Matt Marino, John Henderson, Brandon Greer, and Nick Guillory.
Nice. Wonderful.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys. We're so very grateful for your support, your continued support, even after we've taken somewhat of a break to come back. We could talk about what we were doing during our break at some other point in the future. We did this part of it. But hey.
This is what I was doing. I had to find another friend to hang out with on Wednesday
nights.
It
took 2 months of eBay being outbid on auctions on eBay for a Salacious Crumb figure.
No, I need to point out to you, this was a birthday present from the guy sitting underneath your left shoulder, and one of our
wait a second.
Folks in the
one
chat.
Of our patrons. That's right.
Marcus.
Oh, very good. I love that.
Yes.
Hey, it's fantastic. Is that a vintage thing? I mean, it must be, right?
I stayed in touch with Kat during a hiatus, so that's how that worked.
Yeah. To be honest with you guys, until you started talking, because I'm used to hearing you, I wasn't sure you were actually Kat and John. Because I wasn't.
That's fair.
I kind of had a rough idea. Hey, join us this weekend in Atlanta at SFGE. You'll get to hang out with us and John, including John, and also his crew from Gen X.
We'll be there.
We'd love to see you, and we're going to do some fun stuff there. All right, hey, we will talk to you next time on 1980s Now.
Until next time.
Where's my Viagra cylinder?
That would be a good cocktail.